All right, welcome on to episode 2 of Arguing About Food. I hate intros, so we're just going to get right into discussing the most overrated foods. Overrated will be in capitals on the YouTube title.
Seems necessary.
Yeah, apparently. So somehow that helps. I don't know. I feel a little bit of trepidation about overcapitalization for no reason, but I guess YouTube, that's just the nature of the medium. So let's just talk about what it means to be an overrated food first. Liv, what were some of your criteria to determine whether something was overrated?
Well, I mean, first of all, it has to be highly rated. There are certainly some foods that I think are overrated, even though nobody really likes them. So it had to be highly rated.
The fact that it's
place.
even, the fact that it's even a food at all means that it's overrated.
Yes, exactly. So it had to be something that I think the general public all really enjoys, or the majority of people really, really like this thing.
I tried to be a little bit more objective about it than just, my personal preference is everyone liked this, but I personally think it's bad. I wanted to come up with some criteria where even in many cases, it's something that I like, but people just go so ridiculously crazy for it. I just can't really get behind that and at least have some semi-objective reasons to back things up. So anything else we need to talk about here? Yeah.
Well, the other thing that just kept coming up in my head when I was trying to come up with my list was whether I could make a better version of it at home than anywhere else I can get it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. If every time I order it out, it is significantly worse than I could do at home, then it's an overrated food.
No, I guess that makes sense. The restaurant version is overrated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I have a few things like that. That's a new way to think of it. I think even my own piddling cooking skills, I feel like there are a few restaurant versions of things that I can improve on generally. Okay. What's your number 5? We're going to count down. Number 5 most overrated food is
Tater Tots. People go nuts for them. They're like, oh my god, they have tots. Let's get the tots. And they're always just these sad, soggy little bites. And, honestly, French fries could almost be in this category as well because there's so many bad French fries. I know. But really, it's tots because the ratio of potato to crispy outside is a bigger gap to cross, or whatever you want to say. So
yeah.
So often they're undercooked and they're just little cold potato capsules, and they're greasy and they're not crunchy. They're disgusting.
Yeah, not a fan of the loaded tots, then, I'm guessing.
Well, that gets your hopes up even higher. I mean, seriously, you're like, loaded? This is going to be amazing. It's going to be like nachos. And then they're sad little potato capsules with cheese on them.
I will second you to the extent that they're just not, they can be really bad. If they're soggy, they can be truly awful. If they get cold, going back to what we were talking about last time, if they have some ingredient on there that makes it too cold, like you were talking about with the full onion pizza last time,
right.
If there's, or if the cheese gets cold a little bit, or I agree that bad tater tots could be really bad, but I really enjoy good tater tots. As much as I also sympathize with you going out to eat with people and being like, let's get the tots.
That's the other thing, is just the tots, man.
Maybe less of a problem for those of us who don't live in Chicago that at least the people we're with aren't going to talk like that.
I mean, I think most of the country. If anybody actually knew how to cook them properly, they might be less overrated. But apparently, the entire like restaurant community just doesn't know how to cook them properly.
Well, if you can, so how do you feel about McDonald's hash browns?
They're amazing. I put one on the sandwich. I get two, so I can put one into the sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. I've said before that there should be a double down-esque version of a McDonald's breakfast sandwich that just substitutes the bread for 2 hash browns.
Yeah, I mean, I can't get behind that because I just hate greasy fingers, but I do understand like why that would be enjoyable. But then I'd have to eat it burrito style, like moving the paper down and. Ugh.
Yeah, if you hate greasy fingers, you should try using a napkin sometime after you're done eating.
I do a lot of car eating these days, man.
Solves that problem.
Fair.
Maybe even a paper towel if it's my household.
I think that it's interesting that you even tried to compare McDonald's hash browns to Tots. They're clearly not the same thing. The surface area on the McDonald's hash brown is, far greater and therefore gives a much better potato to crisp ratio.
No, I agree with you on that. I think you can, if the Tater Tots are crispy enough and then the interior isn't too mushy, then I think you can get pretty close to McDonald's hash brown zest. But I agree with you. That interior, it's just going to be a little too cold and soggy. If the exterior isn't just extremely crunchy, you could be in trouble. It did not make my list. I understand your thoughts. I still really, really enjoy a good Tater Tots, though. And I find them superior to many French fries, but not all. Okay. This is going to be good. We're going to disagree on stuff a lot here. All right. This is my first most overrated food. The first on my list. My 5th most overrated food is octopus.
Oof. Yeah.
It's now my wife just won't eat it. She has been told billions of times, "Oh, you just haven't had the right octopus," and she's had the right octopus, she's had the wrong octopus, she's had every possible kind that you can have.
We had octopus that she enjoyed, though, right?
No, she didn't eat it
over Thanksgiving
at Alavita. No,
she said it was the best octopus she'd had, or was that you?
She did. That was me. Yeah, and I was gonna say Alavita, where part of the restaurant group where our friend Kim works, has great octopus. That was fantastic. One of maybe 2 or 3 octopi that I've ever enjoyed. And it's just, it's too chewy. The legs oftentimes are too thick. There's no way to get seasoning onto the interior of it either unless you slice it up really, really thinly. I also have a few qualms about the whole really being intelligent thing and still eating them. I don't want to get into like the ethics of eating certain things and not eating certain things. Like there's no rationality to that. It's just I'm not saying that objectively. That's just something that kind of bothers me. I read a sci-fi book about super intelligent octopi once.
That's interesting.
But yeah, so it's too chewy. It doesn't have its own flavor inherently. I don't think. You got to put a bunch of stuff around it. Maybe if you cook it in a way that it kind of crisps up, then I can get by the texture. But 98% of all octopus dishes are just too chewy, and you put a bunch of flavor around it, fine. You can put a bunch of flavor around anything, and it's expensive. Don't like it.
How do you feel about calamari? Or any form of squid?
I'm not a huge squid person, other than if it's the legs. I like the legs way more than the body. The body kind of suffers from the same problems as octopi, but the body of calamari or the legs of calamari or squid, they're thin enough that you kind of get a little bit different of a texture than just that solid mass, whereas the octopus legs are usually a little bit thicker. And then also frying them I mean, I'm not like an enormous. I'm not like, oh, we got to get the calamari type of person, but the calamari legs that are fried, I like that pretty good. I think the texture is good. The rings are pretty sorry.
Yeah, it's too bad they're not all legs, huh?
They could be. It's like the muffin tops and the muffin.
Well, I mean, I don't need to go into a huge detail here, but I wholly disagree with you. I love octopus. I love the texture, and I think that there's a lot of different applications that you can really do a myriad of things and flavorings with octopus. But
Maybe you just have a stronger jaw than I do. Is that possible? That it doesn't take you as long to chew it?
I enjoy that part so much. I think the texture is what sells octopus for me.
Yeah. I just and then the other problem too, if you're chewing something for too long, then your saliva kind of washes all of the flavor off of it. And so then you're just left again with this thing that doesn't have its own inherent flavor that you're still continuing to chew.
Oh, well, okay.
Am I making some good points here? Give me some credit.
I hear you, yes. And I know that you're not alone there, for sure. I would say, most, over 50% of people would agree with you on this. So, I'll just be in the minority. It's fine. I'll try it out.
Okay, your number 4 most overrated food is...
Oh, yeah. Coleslaw.
Do people... is that highly rated, though?
People go nuts for coleslaw. They're, like, piling it on their plate at a picnic. I don't understand. Or, like, more a barbecue. But, yeah. People are passionate about coleslaw, and they've got like their different types that they like. I've had this conversation with humans before. So my most hated coleslaw are the like creamy sweet versions that are like with Miracle Whip, and for some reason seem like there's added sugar in them. Just foul.
Added sugar in an American food? Added sugar?
Go figure. And then next would be, I actually hate mayonnaise coleslaw, and for a just ridiculous.
But you love mayonnaise in general, yeah.
I know. Take out the cabbage and the carrots and shit, and just give me the mayonnaise, and I'm fine. And then the best version of coleslaw has got to be like the more vinegary ones for me. With no...
You could put it on like a pulled pork sandwich. Coleslaw on like I think once you call it slaw, that makes it a lot better. Like, why is it even called cole, C-O-L-E? Is that... I always thought it was cold slaw when I was a kid because it's cold.
Oh, really?
What does that even mean? C-O-L-E, coleslaw. I
don't know. Honestly, for something that I'm vehemently against, I'm surprised that I haven't done more research into the history of coleslaw. I don't know where the name comes from. I do know that as a condiment, which is what you're kind of, putting it into, maybe. Okay, it's got merit there.
Yeah.
But as an actual thing that you eat with a fork, no. Just, it shouldn't... It's like ambrosia salad. It shouldn't be a thing.
I keep trying coleslaw. It's rare that I have one that I could eat it by itself. One of my favorite things, too, is... Oh, we've got this thing that has a terrible texture and taste already. I know what we'll do. We'll save it by putting... thinly sliced carrot strips into it. That's really gonna make this more edible.
Oh, that is such a Nate Duncan thing to say. Yeah, no, I don't understand like why it exists. Cabbage itself is fine. I actually think that cabbage is great in many applications, but you're not making it better by putting, this creamy oh God. And then also it gets wetter as it sits, and it turns into like coleslaw soup. And by the end of the barbecue or wherever you're at, it is now like this like cold, disgusting white liquid with like little pieces of shredded vegetable in it. It's
It's also likely soaking through your paper plate by that point as well.
Right. Yeah.
But paper plate quality could be a full podcast on its own, but I think it's probably time to move on.
Okay. Fair.
Okay, my number 4, which I actually just added to the list, my number 4 most overrated food is the muffin.
Ooh. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wait, just the bottom or the top as well?
No, the whole muffin. So, I really object to things that nutritionally are essentially desserts, but just don't taste as good as a normal dessert. And I will also say that very many muffins are really bad. Maybe the ultimate muffin I could get behind, but they're very, very often too dry, inadequate ingredient distribution throughout the muffin as well.
Ingredient distribution is a good point, but are you saying that, like, you know, all the things sink to the bottom, kind of?
Well, maybe. I don't know exactly how it is that these things are cooked, other than that
They go in an oven.
A muffin tin is involved. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that as the muffin expands, gravity could pull all the ingredients down, and that could be an issue. But I guess, yeah, it's just blueberry. I mean, maybe if you put some chocolate in it and it's melted, that could distribute through it a little bit. But, and then there's also perversions such as the bran muffin as well, which is even drier. Like, if you had any saliva in your mouth before eating a bran muffin, like, you're not going to have any for at least 3 hours after it's over.
Oh, man. You remind me of an ingredient that I don't understand the point of, which is poppy seeds. Like, your lemon poppy seed muffin. I'm like, why am I not just having a lemon muffin?
Other than on a hot dog bun, which, spoiler alert, hot dogs did not make my list. But other than on a hot dog bun, yeah, I don't really see much point for poppy seeds. Sesame kicks the shit out of poppy for sure, as in any pretty much any application.
You mean because it has flavor?
So yeah, I think ultimately for the muffin, it's basically cake from a nutritional standpoint, but it's just nowhere near as good. And somehow, now you're allowed to eat it for breakfast because it's a muffin instead of cake, but it's just not a fan. There's like 4 muffins that I've ever had in my life that I've liked. Are you gonna fight back on this one?
Not as hard as on Octopus. Octopus, I have qualms with, but muffins, you're right, they're not amazing.
Or compared to a donut as a sugary breakfast food, a donut is just so much better than a muffin.
See, is a donut even a breakfast food, really?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about people bringing in donuts to their office, or NBA players on rookie duty have to bring donuts to the plane when it's taking off in the morning. They have to get there early. I think is that true? It's considered a breakfast food. Yeah. It's like they get hazed.
All right, you gotta get donuts.
Okay. What's next here?
I guess it's my number 3 most overrated food. So I struggled with my top 3, which order to put them in. I think my number 3 is the gyro. Gyros.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah, it's really not that good.
Yeah, I had to pull in some help on this one. My brother-in-law, Corey, and I were talking about this yesterday, and oh man, this came up in our conversation, and it's just, on paper it sounds awesome, you know, like a lamb that's kind of like rotisserie cooking, or well, most of it's lamb, and then shaved off, and it's like crunchy, and then there's tzatziki sauce and onions, and it all like sounds like it's really great, but every time I get one, I'm just wholly disappointed by it. And I think the major reason is usually the pita, honestly. I know that Greek pita is different than like Middle Eastern pita. And I had this problem before working at Galit, but then just having, the best pita in the entire world there.
Yeah.
Really
I think Middle Eastern pita is
pita.
better.
Yeah, and it's pockets, right? Now, if you took Middle Eastern pita, let's say, and you put the ingredients of a gyro into it, perhaps then the distribution and like just its tactile form would be better. But it's this flat, like dry pita usually, overloaded with honestly always too much meat. And
that's true. Yeah, you're gonna get some spill out there for sure.
Yeah, and so you usually end up going in with a fork and like starting by like eating some of the meat out of it. During this time, it's cooling down. The pita below, which was probably totally subpar quality in the first place, is continuing to cool.
Yeah.
And
it's coming out of a plastic
bag.
It's coming out of a plastic bag. It's not going to be heated up in a way where you get any crispiness or any of those burned parts on the outside like Galit. Galit, by the way, for those who don't know, where Liv used to work, is probably the best Middle Eastern food in the country / Israeli food. So
definitely
best pita, best hummus that's ever existed, essentially. But so yeah, I guess you're saying
I have dreams about the hummus. But yeah, so even by the time you get the ingredients down to where you can wrap it and eat it, now the pita is just like cracking and typically soggy from the tomato and the tzatziki, but still dry on the outside. So now you've got this like bent thing and everything's falling out of it. And the distribution of ingredients is always wrong. It's just always really disappointing.
High risk of soak through on the bottom as well, causing the ingredients just completely fall out. And I will second everything that you said. Over reliance on cucumber also, that's a big problem for me. We don't need to get into that here. But then also the meat itself, maybe it can be really good. A lot of time they put way too much spice in there. The texture can get extremely rubbery. Maybe if they slice it off of there and then put it on the grill for just a second to heat it up again, that can help sometimes, but a lot of times they don't do that. And it also just looks kind of gross too. It looks like the thing that it's on looks like, a warp drive from the 1960s.
Yeah.
In the original Star Trek. And as much as I enjoy warp technology, I don't really want it involved in food production too much.
I actually really enjoy fresh, like raw white onion. I do. I think that it adds flavor and texture to things. But again, when you're taking this supposedly very warm or hot meat, putting it into a supposedly hot pita with cold tzatziki, cold tomatoes, and cold white onion, it's a recipe for disaster. And it's just, the whole concept of it really could have been just done better. I don't know. But I still want it, and I order it probably once a year, I'd say, because those flavors really do go well together. It's just, I'm always disappointed.
Yeah, I would say there's maybe like the top 10 or 15% of gyro I've really enjoyed, but generally, particularly in Chicago, there are a lot of bad gyro places for sure.
Yeah. Everybody thinks it's so simple. Just get a spit and you're good.
All right, my number 3 most overrated food. You can brand me a communist right now.
I surely
pie.
will.
Apple pie is my number 3 most overrated food.
All right. Oh, man. Yeah, you're not going to get any blowback from that one.
Well, because nobody is listening. Is that's
Yeah, honestly.
uh
I mean, what is your
yeah.
beef with the most American of desserts?
Okay, so in general, I don't really care. It's a subset of a larger issue of things that are not inherently sweet enough being made into desserts by putting a crap load of sugar into them. I
This
think
is so
the
funny
app
compared to your muffin spiel. Uh, yeah, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. So, number 1, what is nice about apples? It's that they're crisp, it's that they're tart, it's that they're refreshing. It's not that they're sweet, it's not that they're decadent. So the attempt to make the apple into that, I think, generally fails pretty miserably. I generally like my desserts to have chocolate in them. It doesn't have chocolate. That I understand that might be a controversial idea. It's just they're always so sugary and so heavy, and the what do they call the stuff in pies that goes around the fruit, like the syrupy stuff?
I
Does that
mean,
have a
well,
name?
it no. I mean, sauce. There's so many
Okay.
different ways to accomplish that sauce, but
All right.
apples have a lot of pectin in them, so they generally make a sort of like thicker sauce around them.
So I don't really care for that. It's just so sludge like, and then the apples are always the chunks of apple are always too large as well, so you end up really like texture wise, you just end up kind of running into this big hard mass as everything else just shrinks away around it, and then you bite into the apple, but then the apple is still really sugary as well. And I really enjoy apple flavored things. Like, for example, when I was in Switzerland at this awesome hotel, they had straight up fresh squeezed apple juice. It was like the same as you'd have with orange juice, and it was like one of the best things that I've tasted in the fruit realm in quite some time. But yeah, the apple pie, I mean, obviously, as American as apple pie, it's very highly rated by everybody. But I think if you really polled people, like for it to be considered our national dessert, and this is part of it too, it's just it's so highly rated. This is our national dessert. But how many people, if you polled them, would be like, oh, apple pie is in my top 10 of desserts?
I see what you're saying. Although I feel that if you polled people on what their favorite pie was, a lot of people would put apple pie right up there at the top.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of better pies, and I'm not a pie guy. I will say that as well. I think there are a lot of bad pie crusts out there. Also, from a presentation standpoint, the apple pie, like once you take it out and put it on the plate, it's gonna just go everywhere
But
on your
that's
plate. Then
any
it
filled pie. Any filled
no
pie
no
is
I
gonna
get
go
that, but then
everywhere.
it becomes too difficult to get pie crust and the filling in the bite at the same time because it's all spilling over to the side. You gotta kind of manufacture each bite together, and then you run into the crust on the end, and then you can't really like that's so hard you can't really get that in with the syrup. It's just a pain in
Mm.
the ass in all respects, I would say.
All right. I mean, I respect your arguments for sure. But I'd say apple pie of pies. It's in my top three. I love apple pie. But I also feel like you might have had just like a different experience with apple pie in your life than I have. I've had some really really great ones, and the you're right though, the size of the apple slice is really important because if you're only getting like 8 slices total out of an apple that you're putting into this pie, yeah, you're gonna be in trouble. The thing's not gonna be cooked through enough. It's gonna you can't have enough bites because now you like need a knife for your apple pie. But
Yeah.
if they're cut right, I don't see any problem with apple pie. I don't think it's overrated.
Well, a big part of my objection to it is I think it's just so highly rated just to be again I can't be it doesn't make me proud as an American to know that that is considered basically like the quintessential analog for what it is to be American as apple pie.
Oh
Like,
man.
I mean,
I
if
mean,
you're like,
I don't identify with that phrase either, but
like if you're as French and as if you're as French as an eclair or as American as apple pie, I think you probably want to be French, right?
yeah, I mean, are we now debating whether an eclair is superior to apple pie? Because it is.
No, yeah, okay. Next here, let's get into some of our honorable mention most overrated foods. I'm gonna start with pho. Just kidding, because that was your number one
Yeah.
last week, tied for number one with ramen. I'm gonna go with the sundae.
Oh.
Another dessert that the chocolate sauce generally is not very high quality, but if this ice cream were worth eating, it wouldn't need chocolate sauce on top of it. And if it is worth eating, then you don't want the chocolate sauce on top of it because it's just overwhelming the flavor of the ice cream. Now, I will note this does not include the chocolate sauce that goes on and becomes the hard shell, like the Dairy Queen soft serve dip.
Yeah.
That is awesome. But just a liquid chocolate sauce sundae, especially the type that you're going to get in most places. And then you throw whipped cream on top, too. That's whipped cream and ice cream don't really go together that much. Like, whipped cream is sort of a substitute for ice cream, I think.
I absolutely do hear you, but I think nostalgia gets the better of me with the sundae, and I believe that the purpose of a sundae, in my opinion, is to have it with vanilla ice cream. Like you're not supposed to put better flavors into a sundae because hot fudge and it's like a race to see if you can eat it before it's soup. I love it.
Yeah, it's just never that good though. Honestly, like it's. The chocolates, like just the normal
I like the peanuts
sundae.
too. Peanuts on top.
Yeah, okay, that helps a little bit. But the normal sundae that people are having at home with like Hershey's syrup and Dominic's brand vanilla ice cream or whatever your regional equivalent is.
Oh man, it's been a long time since you were in Chicago. Dominic's doesn't exist anymore.
Jewel brand?
Sure. Mariano's brand. Yeah.
All right. Any other honorable mentions for you and most overrated foods?
Well, I mean, we had a listener say this actually, and I was pretty close to putting filet mignon on my list. People just absolutely adore it, but it's really, it's just flavorless. And I mean, I'll eat one, if that's like what's on the menu. Sure, I still love steak. I'm a Midwestern girl at heart, but it has no fat and therefore no flavor. And weirdly, people seem to think it's like better for it to be, 2 to 3 inches thick. But that means that you're literally just getting more of a non-marbled, flavorless center.
I agree with you 1,000% on this. It's only good if it has some sauce around it, and then you want it to be thinner so that you don't run into that area that doesn't have any sauce and you just taste like the texture. Obviously, is amazing. That's what people like, but you can do better.
Yeah, it's fine.
Fat is what. Yeah, I mean, anytime one of my male friends orders a filet mignon, I make fun of them.
I make fun of any friend regardless of their gender.
Well, and it's also...
I can't make fun of my mom for it because she really, really loves filet mignon.
Yeah, but it's just like an entry level steak for someone who doesn't like steak, and ooh, a piece of fat. Oh no.
Yeah, precisely. And I don't know. I mean, that's fine, but you can cut that off.
Yeah, and also it's incredibly expensive.
Yeah. That is the other thing. I understand it's because it's, from the tenderloin, and that's a very small part of the cow. But, yeah, so, just, I don't know, use it for something better.
All right, I'm going to run through a few more of these here real quickly. These honorably mentioned overrated foods. Carrot cake. Carrot should not be in a dessert. It's not sweet. The texture is bad. It runs into the same problem as coconut, but it tastes even worse than coconut. Just in terms of like the texture of it, it kind of it
Wow,
gets sort
coconut
of
and
like
carrot
caught in the back of
are.
your throat. I sometimes just like if I eat carrot, sometimes I just start coughing. Like I get these little bits of carrot in the back of my throat. Really, other than I've come around on cooked carrots being in a dish, but yeah, raw carrots, which is carrot cake, is still kind of has
I
more of that
never knew you
raw.
had this thing with carrots because, I mean, I had that my entire childhood. I now enjoy raw carrots, but I always said the exact same thing. Man, like, I just can't get them down. They're, like, stuck back there.
I may, I mean, I think there are many objective reasons not to like carrots, but part of the reason I think I don't like them is my grandmother on my mom's side, therefore my Jewish grandmother, used to really push on it. She's like, "How come you don't like carrots anymore? You used to like carrots. Why don't you just try it?"
Aw. Fair. What else you
Like,
got for
I was 17 years old, and she would tell me every time I came over, she'd offer me carrots and tell me how I liked carrots when I was 3.
Oh, God. Yeah, and also a very good impression right there. Pretty spot on.
Okay. Any other honorable mentions for you?
Um, well, yeah, I got one, but I knew that you would. I also agree, actually, that it shouldn't count because it's a condiment. But ketchup. Ketchup was, I mean, in my opinion, probably the most overrated food in America.
What are you talking about? You get your steak well done, you put ketchup on it? That's just divine.
Oh, God. I think you might be referencing someone. Um, I didn't include it, of course, because it can be argued that it's not even a food; it's a sauce.
I think. Well, I think when we were, I feel fine about delving into condiments and basically anything at this point. I don't think our criteria need to be as stringent of when we're talking about the best the objectively best foods here. I think you can throw in any sort of ingredient in a dish even for this.
Well, ketchup was, in my opinion, so it it started out as like a Chinese sauce that was like usually like fish based, I believe, if my food history is accurate, and and like was just a way to kind of like add vinegar, so some like acid and like salt to a food item. And for some reason in America, it turned into tomato as like the main ingredient. And then sugar. Like, I mean, it basically is a sugar sauce that you are putting on things. And I know that we love sugar in the States, but I guess I don't have a sweet tooth. And I think that what you're basically doing is like adding almost like caramel sauce to everything you put ketchup on. It's so sweet and sticky, and it also smells weird. Hate it. But
I've
the
largely
catsup is fine. Just kidding. Oh man, the whole catsup. What is even with that?
yeah.
Why are certain
You and Mr. Burns both struggle with that. And Dad was a cat. He called it catsup.
Yeah, even when it was ketchup. Like, even if the bottle said ketchup, he still called it catsup.
But
That part I actually don't know the distinction, or if there is one, or if it was like trademarking or something.
I don't think that there is a distinction. I'll agree with you mostly, in particular we're gonna really jazz this up by making it spicy ketchup. Now it's really fucking artisanal. It's spicy ketchup. No,
Places that make their own ketchup.
So, I love that level of disdain. But no, I think there are times for ketchup. Like every once in a while, if I go to In-N-Out, for example, right, I'll get a side of spread there, the In-N-Out spread, and that'll be my primary condiment. But that can get a little bit heavy, and so I find maybe an occasional dip of the burger into ketchup to be refreshing. I think it's also pretty good with certain fries. Like McDonald's French fries and Heinz ketchup is still pretty good. And then, but for at home, I implore you, if you're getting ketchup, get either Trader Joe's organic ketchup, or if you go to Whole Foods, or maybe they have this at Safeway or something too, Annie's organic ketchup, which is the same thing. It's actually a pretty good ketchup. It has a little bit more tomato flavor, less sugary. You don't get as much of the watery separation as well with it.
If I were to pick a readily available ketchup, Sir Kensington's is the one for me. But I put ketchup on one thing and one thing only, and it's breakfast sausage, and that's it.
That will be. I do that too. I think we actually put catsup on breakfast sausage since that came from Dad. Well, we can discuss that more at a later time. Okay, I got one more here. That is just. This is more again of how people just go completely buck wild for this thing. And it's pretty good, certainly. I eat it. I enjoy it. This is another honorable mention. Avocados. Avocado toast. I mean, I'm not going to go on the millennial avocado toast rant and make an asshole out of myself that way. But it's just, the texture's pretty decent. It doesn't really have that much inherent flavor. Just having it be the one thing in addition, unless it's guac, I think is a little bit too much. Just to be, oh my god, it has avocado. Like the avocado on burger, I think that's a trend that I don't really care for that much. I don't think it really, texture-wise, kind of enhances things. It's just, like, yeah, avocados are solid. I eat them all the time. It's nice to have them. But they're not just the greatest fruit/vegetable/nut that's ever existed the way some people like to make them.
I adore avocados, but I would still agree that they are overrated. People, they're on a pedestal that they could be knocked down from.
Did we hit all of your honorable mentions here?
Yeah, I think so.
I got one more. Dutch Crunch bread, which is something that we have here in San Francisco. That. Yeah, it's... How about you just toast it instead? Instead of trying to figure out a way to make it crunchy without toasting it. If you're not familiar with Dutch Crunch, look it up. Everyone here in San Francisco loves it on their sandwiches. Hopefully it hasn't been exported too much to be inflicted on poor souls in other areas of the country and the world. Maybe we should. I think other states should actually.
You might be opening up the gateway for Dutch Crunch to the rest of the world right now. Maybe you should keep it under wraps.
No, other states, like, so when you drive from like Arizona or Nevada into California, you have to go through this agricultural food check station, and they never stop you if you're in a regular car or anything. But I think those states should set up equivalent check stations on the other side of the border if you drive out of California, to make sure that you're not bringing Dutch Crunch into these other states.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'll just try to... Well, all right, you don't like either. Can you describe what it is and why it may not be the greatest?
So it's almost got like what you would call like a crackle as its crust.
Yeah. It's got these these dots on the side that are supposed to be as good, like give you a crunch, but it's like there are way better ways to get a crunch than that.
Well, and I don't hate it as much as you do, but I don't find value in it. I just don't understand why California, and especially the Bay Area, why they weren't just satisfied like making the best sourdough in the country. Like, why not just stick to the bread that is really good there?
Yeah, exactly. The only people who I think should enjoy Dutch Crunch are like 15-year-old kids who just got their braces done and are wearing retainers on both the top and bottom of their mouths so that they don't cut the shit out of the inside of their mouths. That's the only people who should be eating Dutch Crunch.
All right. That is true. So many breads I wish I had a retainer for.
But it's not worth it, obviously. I'm willing to cut up my mouth if it's a good bread, if it's like a great baguette or something that's really like a great toasted sourdough or something like that. But yeah, not for Dutch Crunch, thank you.
All right.
All right, let's get into it here. Your number 2 most overrated food is?
Nachos. There.
Ooh, so yeah, wow. The both loaded anything is really just getting the shaft here from you.
I know. I alluded to it with the tots, huh? I don't understand why people order nachos at restaurants. They are so disappointing every time. Okay, so distribution of ingredients. Obviously, we've harped on this a bit. But, I mean, how are you supposed to get, like, a good bite every time? When you've got... I mean, I could get into, and I will,
it's true.
Quality of ingredients.
With good cheese on there, it's a lot of times it's totally inadequately distributed. So there's 4 good bites. You pick up 1 nacho, 74 other ones, or all of the cheese and like 3 other chips come with it. So you have all of the cheese, but inadequate chips. That chip is really soggy. You feel terrible. You're trying to put your thumb onto the top of the cheese so that you can break off some of the cheese. Then of course your hands get greasy, and then your whole day is ruined apparently after that.
Well, and especially in this pandemic world, they're so difficult to share. Like what you just said, you're putting your hands all over them, you're ripping them apart. You're like trying, even before the pandemic, you felt like, how am I supposed to make the other people sharing this with me comfortable with what I'm doing with my removal of some of these nachos? And because the chips are like the cheapest part, right? There's always this layer of totally undressed tortilla chips underneath. You get through the ingredients on the top, and now you've just got bare tortilla chips.
When you're really in trouble with nachos is when it's the tricolor combination of the chips, where it's like the blue corn, but it's not like actual, because it's not actually a good version of the blue corn, the white chip, and I don't even know what the red chip is even supposed to symbolize. what makes it red? That is
I
not
thought it
a
was
natural
the Texas
color.
flag, honestly. I thought it was like these were like Tex-Mex chips. No, those are just dyed. It's not blue corn. It's just dyed, I think.
Throw nachos in too as one of those things you were alluding to earlier that you could make better at home than 95% of restaurants, because you actually are going to take the care, get adequate cheese distribution. And also, by the way, the chicken on top of nachos is always bad. It always gets dried out when they throw it into under the heat lamp or whatever they use to melt the cheese. I like nachos. I wouldn't have put it in my most overrated. Also, non-regular cheese. The places that give you the nacho cheese is a little overrated too. It's Beavis and Butthead's favorite food. All right. You're not selling it.
It's funny that you say that, because I would almost prefer a nacho cheese to just just shredded cheddar that is now hardened on. I would almost prefer nacho cheese. And then also the little sliced black olives. What is that? Why black olives become a Mexican ingredient for this? Well, it's not really a Mexican food, but I don't understand those. Now, the best version of nachos, again, I disagree with you about the melted cheese thing, or the nacho cheese. I would rather just have tortilla strips or chips, nacho cheese, and pickled jalapenos. And that is a better dish to me than these prepared items you order at a restaurant.
Yeah, like the stadium nachos.
Yeah. I'd rather have that.
That's you got to do a lot of customization. You got to the ones we get lettuce on nachos too. That's just
does not belong. Absolutely.
No.
Oh, and beans with nachos. What?
Well, yeah, because that's gonna destroy your chips.
Yeah.
As well. So I could customize nachos, making them at home, anything where you have to look like an asshole to the waiter to be like, okay, now let me get extra cheese, no olives, and I don't know if lettuce comes on it, but if it does, can you not put it on there? And,
Yeah. And can you make sure to put a layer of cheese before the second layer of tortilla strips and then put more cheese? Because I want to make sure.
yeah. Could you do it? Could you go back there in the kitchen and personally make sure? Can you write all this down and make sure that he's doing it exactly this way? No, that's obviously terrible. My number 2 most overrated food is any kind of red meat that isn't beef.
Wow. That's a lot. Okay.
I try all these on the menu many a time, whether it's bison, whether it's elk, whether it's deer. What are some other red meats that aren't? Lamb. Yeah, lamb is the one I might exempt from this, but it's still not as good as beef. But the whole idea, I think, of these gamier meats is, they're healthier, they don't have as much fat in them. I think their popularity may have evolved at a time whenever it's like, fat is bad, you can't eat fat, that kind of thing, which nutritionally I think is not as much the case anymore. And yeah, it just doesn't have the fat content that beef does. I feel like, this is some alternative, and no, it's just not as good as beef. I go back to beef every time. There's always beef on the menu in addition to this. When I order it, I'm like, why did I do that? That was just a terrible idea.
Oh, man. I mean, I just think that they have different, qualities to them. I don't even really compare any of those other gamier meats to beef. But I do appreciate you bringing some Americana back after your disdain for apple pie. So I'm glad that you still retained this very American quality of loving beef.
I mean, some would maintain that bison is the most American of foods, actually, but
yeah, right.
But, yeah, at this point, yeah, they don't have the same fat content, and the gaminess. I don't know that people describe that gaminess is a positive thing. I don't know. It doesn't really. You're just, does that come
especially from... bison is like fine. I'm not huge on it. Elk and venison, I do enjoy. I think that there's a quality there that it's just like a smoother texture. I like the quote unquote gaminess, which I just think is like a little bit of more funk kind of than beef has. I mean, I definitely don't agree with you, but also I don't know that they're like crazy highly rated. Do people really, really love these meats?
Yeah, well, it's just people are like, ooh, wow, this is a different take on this thing. Oh, yeah, regular beef, that's just so boring. Oh, we're going to really jazz it up here by putting this other red meat on there instead. Also, I generally don't care for the texture of them as much as beef. Some of these kind of remind me of, that thing that you use to clean up cat hair, where like you pull it in one direction and it picks up the hair, and then you push it the other direction and and then it puts it into a clump, and then you can throw it into a paper bag or whatever as you're cleaning up. Yeah. Texture like slightly reminds me of that.
Wow, that is very interesting. Okay. Okay. Also, I would venture to say that lamb has a pretty good fat content, and I'm exempting
the most. I'm largely exempting
to beef. Okay.
Right, because I mean, part of the reason I'm saying it's overrated. Lamb has been around forever, right? Like that's just something that people have always liked forever. Like particularly Middle Eastern lamb is unbelievable, but so it's not like lamb is not really viewed as a beef substitute, right? I think some of the, and maybe like the 80s and 90s, where some of these gamier meats became more often found on menus, where it's like, oh hey, this is a substitute for beef. It's healthier, but it's also more unique and all this shit. And it's not better. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
Okay, I'm in. I'm in for that one for sure.
Your number one.
Yeah, so
Sorry,
my
go
number
ahead.
one most overrated food, I know you're going to get behind, and now I'm nervous that it's also your number one. Ham.
It won't be.
Ham.
Ham.
Ham is my number one most overrated food.
This was one where I certainly loathe ham. There was an incident when I was 5 years old, and this is like shortly after you were born, actually. Dad built this basement bedroom for me that you could only get upstairs by going through the back stairway that was unheated, and so it's at night. But he was like, "Oh no, it's okay. We're gonna." Yeah. He's like, "Oh no, it's okay. Like, don't worry. Like, if anything bad happens, like, we'll have the walkie-talkie on." So I had ham, a big ham dinner that night, and I got sick and I puked all over this like disgusting red carpet that was there. And so I was like turning on the thing because they told me like, okay, once you go to bed, like you're not allowed to like come upstairs and disturb us, basically. And so this is why I hated you for like the first 15 years of life, by the way, because you kicked me out of my bedroom and made me go down there.
This is why. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But sorry, it was more like 10, if we're being honest. But in any event.
All right. Well, I do think.
Well.
That
Okay,
it was
but anyway, so
choice.
Dad never, to finish the story, Dad never answered the walkie-talkie, and so I was just like stuck down there, having just puked all over the floor and like trying to go to sleep, and then puking again, and him like never coming down to help me, and it was all because of ham, and I don't really eat ham now.
I find it very interesting that you didn't go upstairs though. Like
I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, you were never a rule breaker. I guess.
Think I might have. Maybe I did finally after like 3 or 4 hours or some and 3 or 4 hours when you're a kid, 3 or 4 hours is way longer than when you're an adult too. Like it's just relative to the total amount of your lifetime. 3 or 4 hours is much longer than it would be now. But anyway, sorry. So I personally don't like ham. I didn't want to say ham because I feel like my own personal aversion to it, for that reason, would kind of disqualify me from being objective about it.
Okay. Well, that's good because that means that I get to talk about why ham sucks.
Well, you did pick it after all, so maybe after I talked for 3 minutes, now we'll let you explain the reason for your choice.
Yes. Okay, so I can't think of a worse pork product, first of all. Of all the things you can do with a pig, ham, I don't understand it.
1,000%.
So, now, as an actual, like, cut of meat, I think that maybe, like, the ham, I think it's like, the upper part of the leg, I believe. I mean, it could be fine. Whatever, if you just treated it differently. The fact that it needs... Okay. It needs to be honey baked for some reason. What is that? Why do we need sweet meat? Why is it always pre-sliced and already cooked? Why is it a ubiquitous, like, holiday meat food?
Yeah.
Why can nobody make their own goddamn ham? Why do they have to purchase an already prepared ham? I don't understand it. And now that's like honey baked spiral ham. But I also don't really like any cured or like Black Forest, like deli meat ham either.
Yeah, easily the worst of the deli meats. Either that or corned beef. I would say ham might even be worse than corned beef as a deli meat.
It absolutely is. There's no debate there. But it's fine. I can eat deli meat ham. Like I can have it on a sandwich and I'm good. But as the like thicker sliced spiral ham, no. Why is it a thing? So when I was thinking about it, I decided that ham is actually the only one that you probably can't make better at home, since nobody ever does, right? They always buy an already at least par cooked, if not all the way cooked ham. They can't even slice it themselves. It comes with the slices already on it. I don't think that it deserves the prominence that it has. And again, if it's there, it's not like I am disgusted by it. I'll eat the ham, but anything is better. Anything.
Yeah, any pork product. Well, wait, so Oscar Mayer ham and cheese loaf, that doesn't save ham for you?
I think I might have just been like bonding with Dad when I ate ham and cheese loaf.
What
this
about
is the thing we both like.
what about freeze-dried ham and cheese loaf that is shipped to you from someone who will remain anonymous? How do you feel about that? Does that make you like ham?
For the comic relief, yes. For the amount of times I snapped it open on Zoom for people during 2020. Yeah. It's made up for by the Skittles, though.
Someone close to us obtained a freeze dryer and has done some experimenting with it, I guess we should
And
say.
a lot of it's really fun, but the ham really just there to like kind of make get a giggle. But anyway, I think the only place that ham really belongs is like on your truly American like hoagie sandwich. And I can also get behind it if it's added to a Cuban sandwich too.
Yeah, that's actually probably the one time that I can deal with it is on a Cuban sandwich.
Yeah. And of course, also I'm not at all talking about like the lovely cured meats from Spain, like jamón ibérico. I'm talking about American ass ham. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I think you make a great point that, yeah, it's edible, but there's always a better alternative available. Whether it's deli, whether it's something you're going to roast in the oven, whatever it is, you can always do better than ham.
Yeah. What's you?
So, this is going to be extremely controversial. My number one most overrated food is bacon.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Now, that's awful.
Bacon, I really enjoy bacon. That's fine. I very rarely would order it as a side over sausage, though. Much better as a breakfast side than sausage.
Oh, no. Okay.
I will grant you that bacon is one of the better smelling foods as it's been cooked, but I think that leads to it being overrated. First of all, the cooking process for bacon is really annoying. It takes forever. It's very hard to get right, I would say. There's a lot of bad bacon out there, both in terms of store-bought quality of bacon and then as well at a restaurant. Like any fast food bacon is really bad. Like if you get a bacon cheeseburger or something, it's so thin because they totally cheap out on it, and so it's impossible for it to have any integrity. It's so like any piece of bacon that you just hold up and it just makes this U shape off of your fork on either side with just no integrity or crispiness whatsoever.
No brim integrity.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Also, what do you do with the fat afterwards? Are you one of these grease jar people?
Oh yeah.
Where do you put the grease jar? Especially if you I've lived in like some small apartments and stuff. You don't. I want to waste space in my apartment for this jar of grease, and then once it's full, I guess I just throw it in the garbage. I guess, and then when you're cleaning. Or you can do the wait for it to congeal and then scrape all of it into the garbage can move. But that takes like a 3-hour period as well. But it's just, again, the way that people just go so insane for bacon. It's very solid. Also, it can't, when it's the sole ingredient, it's just not enough. It's not substantial enough. It doesn't really make you full for the amount of calories that it has either. I could probably
hang on. I need to backtrack here because you save the bacon grease and then you cook with it, and it's amazing. I sometimes
who is this
don't
you
have enough.
Speak of? Are you talking
I
about
sometimes
me?
don't have enough bacon grease for the amount that I want to use for my cooking purposes.
Because normally when you say you and you're talking to someone, you're referring to them, but you're not referring to me. You're not referring to me. You know I'm
Clearly not. When I was so the other thing it made me think of was when I was younger, my mom and my stepdad used to just take a wad of paper towels and just wipe out the bacon grease to absorb it and throw it out then before it congealed. So you just soak it all up and throw it away.
Seems unnecessary. Yeah.
Well, it's just another method if we're providing options.
Why do people refer to Americans as a wasteful society? I'll never understand.
Exactly. I think that bacon. First of all, how did we both come up with pork products as our number ones? Bacon is
now. Let me be clear. I like bacon way more than I like ham, for example. I like bacon. A lot of this is just that people think bacon is literally the greatest thing ever, and it's I think it's solid. It's a nice accoutrement at some point.
Yeah.
But it's just for example, the BLT is just having only bacon. There's just not enough there, right? When you're eating something, you want it to have a substantiality, which most meat does, where you're biting through it. You can experience it. Just once you take the initial bite into the bacon, it's just gone. You can't really kind of keep chewing it and getting more and more of the flavor. It just, you bite through it, it cracks, and then it's kind of, all right, you're done here.
I mean, if I hadn't known what was it? If I hadn't already known your number 2, anyway, I would have told you to just make a BLTA with avocado, and there you go. You got yourself a substantial sandwich.
That was my number. No, avocado was just an honorable mention.
Oh, okay.
Number two is the non-beef meats. Yeah.
Well, either way, if I didn't already know your aversion to avocados, or you know.
Yeah. Again, it's not aversion. I like avocados. We're talking about overrated. So.
Well, yes, but does adding avocado to a BLT make it better?
Maybe a little.
Okay,
yeah, I think it would just give it a little bit more of a substantiality where you could. Now, I love a club sandwich is great. Obviously, I love bacon in an omelet. So it has its uses. It just, and then also you agree with me on the lots of bad bacon out there aspect.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's some really sad bacon out there but that same establishment probably has some pretty sad breakfast sausage too.
I would say
I think the versatility of bacon is what makes it not overrated. I mean, the fact that you can have bacon in a variety of even desserts. It can be breakfast, it can be lunch, it can be dinner, it can be an ingredient added into something. It can also just be a side all the way on its own. I do think even soggy bacon has its place when being wrapped around something like dates or asparagus or whatever. It's just so versatile. It's not overrated. It's amazing. It's like the best pork product.
Yeah, I can't go that far. I think they're the best pork product compared to charcuterie or
all right.
Great sausages or porchetta.
I might have gone overboard.
All right. Well, speaking of which, I put out a solicitation on Twitter. I think we'll do this every week, actually, where we take user comments. I told everyone, here's what we're talking about, the most overrated food. So we got some good Twitter submissions that we're going to react to here in terms of the most overrated food. So what are some of these comments here that we need to react to?
I thought potatoes. I actually.
Yeah, this
really
is Truth Serum.
Yeah.
Truth Serum 707, by the way, who had this comment. He brands himself the king of icy hot takes.
Well, potatoes.
Maybe he's taking his potatoes that way. That's what his problem is. Yeah.
It's a very fair choice there, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, I put a potato item on my list, but really, like the king of potatoes is what either mashed potatoes or French fries. But they're flavorless. I agree with him. I hear him.
Yeah, if you get just the new potatoes or like those round potatoes that they just serve with, oh, it's got rosemary on it, like two sprigs of rosemary is going to make up for the fact that this 3-inch diameter disc has no flavor in it at all. Yeah, that's going to help. No, I understand where he's coming from. People love fries, but I mean, I just think I can see maybe how they could be overrated, but I love fries. I love hash browns. I love mashed potatoes. There's so too many potato products that I love for me to get on board with this. Okay, next one here. This person, this could be controversial. Bizort says barbecue. To me, it's just badly cooked meat that someone slathered a bunch of sauce onto in order to hide the poor quality.
Yeah, I totally disagree.
Barbecue. Yeah, maybe the barbecue that he's eating is badly cooked.
Yeah.
Just get some good barbecue and you're fine. Yeah, I mean, I understand. Yeah, there's bad barbecue out there. It's dry. Especially barbecue chicken can be quite disappointing. But no, there's it's not poorly cooked at all. It's really well cooked. It's smoked. I mean, is the thought that like the initial quality of something like a brisket is not that good, and then you have to smoke it and do all this shit to it to make it more edible. But no, I mean, it's got great fat in it. It's got great seasoning as well. Even dry barbecue is good. And then also barbecue sauce is amazing. So no, I can't get on board with this in the slightest.
Definitely not. Although, one thing is, I do understand that at times it seems as though the barbecue sauce is just masking everything. So, I can understand that sometimes it feels as though the meat needs the barbecue sauce. But if it's good barbecue, it doesn't. It doesn't need it at all. So.
All right, this is a good one here.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Mesereau. I didn't think it was overrated until I listened to episode 1, but now I think it's got to be the full English breakfast.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Now, I will say we've gotten way more supportive comments on full English breakfast being really good than we have negative comments. So I think that was a pretty good choice. Most people really seem to like it.
But you'll still probably never order it.
No. Next time we're together, I'll order it if it's on the menu for sure. Just because you recommend it. Anything that you recommend that highly, I'm gonna try.
Aw, cool. Let's see. So, Pizza 91, guacamole is useless. That really pulled at me a little bit. I mean, guacamole is the absolute best use for an avocado, right? Is that?
I think so, because you're adding so much additional flavoring to it as well. Yeah. And I love all those things. Cilantro, you throw some jalapeno in there as well. Lime, salt. I'm a Dunkin'. I definitely like anything that has added salt to it.
Oh, yeah. I've made, I think what is a pretty traditional guacamole the other night, and it was my first time doing this. Rather than just, like, mashing everything up in the molcajete, I, did onion, cilantro, and jalapeno, and, first turn that into a paste. This is the best guacamole I've ever made. It was amazing. And I don't understand how it could be useless. It adds fat, it adds flavor, there's acid, salt, heat. It's awesome. So I disagree with Pizza 91 for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I would say it is maybe a little overrated, kind of going into what I said about avocados generally being overrated, but no, it's still really, really good. It's one of the best snack appetizer things. Whenever someone makes a fresh guacamole and puts it out, you're happy. And it's also very difficult to make a bad one if you make it fresh as well.
Yeah.
Joao Barros. French food is overrated as fuck. It's good, but people act like it's a God-given miracle created to give us mortals a taste of heaven.
Oh, yeah.
So I will say, we didn't have any French foods on our top 5 objectively best foods list. And why do you think that is? Because many people consider French cuisine to just be the pinnacle of everything.
Yeah, I mean it's the foundation of cuisine supposedly, but that's just not really true. I think that French food can just be so bad sometimes. So it was like, for instance, what are you gonna do? Like I don't know, escargot. Sometimes it's terrible.
Escargot is a great choice for an overrated.
I was close to picking escargot, but I didn't even put it in the honorable mentions. Yeah, I think that just like French food, it's there's nothing that makes it exceptional enough. It sounds horrible. I love French food.
Well, there is. I mean, as far as the top 5 objectively best foods, there isn't that one French dish that to me is just so iconic and also versatile that you can have. There isn't really a cheap version of it. They're very sauce dependent as well, and complex sauce dependent, which those taste great when you get the right one, but it's not as accessible.
Yeah, I think you did touch on the affordability aspect. Is difficult for me. Like I couldn't choose a French food as one of my objectively best foods because in order to have a good version of it, it's usually just like way more expensive.
Now, when you're eating, I would say though, when you're eating in France, it's very difficult to find a bad meal. Also just like going to the grocery store in France as well. It's just you've got on every corner you've got just these awesome bakeries. You can get great baguettes. Their butter quality, all their cheese, their dairy stuff is great. All their baked goods are awesome as well.
Literally French food is one of my top 3 cuisines. I love French
I think it would be for a lot of people. Yeah. So yeah. I think I understand the objection to it due to the haughtiness. And also, it's surprisingly, if you would think, okay, if it's so good, why wouldn't it be more ubiquitous in other countries? Even though, it's ubiquitous among like super high end stuff, but there just isn't really, there isn't kind of the other than sort of baguette and some sandwiches and stuff. There isn't really that great lower end. I don't know. There's some breakfast stuff, I guess, maybe, a souffle, quiche. Those are probably like the lower end French
the thing
stuff,
is that French cuisine has influence all over the world. It just might not be French food. It's like, the mother sauces are being used in almost every other cuisine now at this point. Even just like brie, like the cheeses out of France on their own have influence all over the world. But yeah, it's the haughtiness, it's the expense, it's that, yeah.
Yeah, let
want some French
let me
food
tell
now.
you this. I don't consider French food to be indispensable in the way that I would other cuisines. Like it's great to go for a high-end place, but it's very rare that I'm just craving some French food right now. I can see that. Yeah, I wouldn't say I wouldn't go so far as to call it overrated. I think that's casting a few too many aspersions, but I do kind of understand where he's going from here.
How do you
any more of these?
Yeah, how do you feel about taco hole and the lobster as an overrated food? I'm interested to know how you feel about lobster.
We got a couple of these actually. Certainly, it's quite expensive. I think I can understand that. the annoyance of eating it. It's not as accessible if you just get this thing plopped down in front of you. For a lot of people, I always feel like I'm just not doing a good enough job of getting it all out of there, and I'm wasting.
Like of
somehow.
maximizing, yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad about that. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. I probably prefer crab over lobster, I would say. I like the texture of crab more.
Okay. I think lobster is definitely overrated, but it's more, again, it's more of a expense thing than it is, I think lobster is just great. It's just, why is it so insanely expensive, and why is it just coveted in the way it is? I don't know. Crab's better. Crawfish is better if you want something really difficult to eat, you know?
Yeah, if that's your number one criterion, that this be as difficult to eat as possible, I'm sorry. Lobster, just blowing out of the water.
Yeah.
I once thought that I could literally eat crawfish indefinitely because I think I could digest it as quickly as I could just
metabolize it faster.
Another bite, yeah. Because for those who haven't had it, you basically just get like a thumbnail size piece of meat out of everything, and it takes at least a minute to prepare it. At least for those of us who are not Louisiana born and bred. Yeah, I think that's fair. And crab to me is just better and cheaper than lobster. I like the way that crab can kind of shred up and then be distributed throughout the dish much more evenly.
Yeah,
I do like the flavor of lobster. It's very tasty, but yeah, I do think that people, oh my god, I gotta have lobster anytime I see it on the menu, and then you throw in the expense as well. I do understand. I would say lobster is overrated. Not at the top, but it is overrated.
Agreed. All right.
Well, hopefully,
I think. Yeah. I think that we've definitely covered enough of the comments too. A lot of agreement. There was, a lot of...
Again? No, we argued.
Yeah.
Like apple pie, you totally weren't on board with this.
You're right.
Yeah.
Good. More arguing, or else we'll have to change the name of the podcast.
Well, we can also argue against just generally other people and concepts outside of each other.
Yes, we've always been good at that as well.
Yeah. Like we're arguing against something. I think we're. If you really feel like you signed on to this podcast and it was a misnomer and you didn't get enough arguing, feel free to tweet us and let us know that this is just, we didn't argue enough. I thought we argued. I think we did. We did good.
Okay. Good.
All right. So for those of you who have more comments here, you can tweet us at Nate Duncan NBA. You can follow Liv as well at Orange Liv on Twitter, or you can follow us on Instagram, where we post some of our food adventures regularly. I'm Nate B. Duncan. Liv is It Looks Best in Orange. Or, of course, on YouTube. We'd love to have you chime in with your most overrated foods, what we got wrong in the YouTube comments if you're watching this on YouTube as well. Our YouTube is Arguing About Food. We'll talk to you all next time. Till then.